Alright, this video is to teach you how to make jerky in your backyard using your charcoal barbecue pit. Alright, I like to use beef round eye steak roast from Costco. You can get it anywhere, but Costco seems to have the best price for the amount of meat that you need. This is 7 pounds. But what's also nice about this beef round eye steak is you can cut it in strips and it won't fall apart easily like other meats will. And that's how I like to make my jerky, in strips. So the first thing that you want to do is you'll see that the underside of this meat has fat here. You want to just remove that with a knife, unless you like to eat fat. But in this case I don't, so I'm going to remove it. And it's fairly easy, it comes off like that. And then once you remove that fat, you can start cutting it into strips. I've tried multiple ways. You can cut in strips, you can cut it into little small patty-like cuts, but I find that the strips tend to taste better because they get more spices around them. And so what I'll do is I'll cut like this, and I'll make a flat piece like that, and then I'll lay that down and then cut that into strips this way. And you'll notice that the meat, the way that the muscle is, it flows in this direction. You don't ever want to cut it this way because then it won't stay apart. It won't stay together as easily. So I like to make them about the size of my ring finger. If you make them smaller, they'll smoke faster. But if you make them a little bigger, they'll have a little bit more kind of softer feel to them when you bite into them. But this is about an ideal size right there. So now we're going to season the meat, and I like to season the meat with several different things. The first thing is garlic salt. Second thing is Montreal steak seasoning, Costco. And I use a spice called Chicago steak seasoning. You can get this at Penzeys Spices. Penzeys Spices is located in Rockville, Maryland, but just get online and see if you have any stores near you. I think they ship to you as well. If not, use whatever the heck you want. Doesn't matter. Everybody has different tastes. So anyway, another thing I've done is I took an empty Montreal steak seasoning and I've labeled it with how much spice to use if you're making a mixture. That way I don't have to, do this. I just do it once and everything is in here. So after you've done this a couple times and find out what you like and what you don't like, you can come up with something like this and just make it all spice seasoning. That makes the whole process go a little faster. So what I'll do is I'll just throw a couple pieces of meat on there and just season like that. Make sure you get all sides. Roll it around a little bit, and it should look something like that. And then you just put it over here and continue the process till you've got everything done. So once you get all the jerky seasoned, next thing you want to do is just put it in a Ziploc bag. And we're gonna let this marinate overnight in the fridge. Alright, so it's the next day and we are ready to smoke the jerky. But before we do, I just want to give you a little rundown of my barbecue pit. If you don't have a charcoal barbecue pit and you're looking for one, these were some of the features I liked about this one. This is a Master Forge 2000. No, I don't know what kind it is. It just says Master Forge. I got it at Sears. But some of the features that I liked about this was you can take out these 3 separate grates here. And that's going to be helpful today because we're going to be constantly feeding the fire with wood and charcoal. And so another thing I liked about this charcoal pit was it has this lever here that allows you to raise and lower the coals, which is nice because, you know, we're smoking today, we're not grilling, so we want the fire to be as far away from the meat as possible, and we just want smoke, not flame. Some of the things that you're going to need for this are Reynolds wrap, heavy duty, charcoal, doesn't matter what kind. If you like wood chips in yours, that's fine too, but for me it really doesn't matter because we're going to be adding our own wood chips. This is just a tree I found in my backyard. You can get any type of wood you want. I know a lot of people are picky, mesquite or whatever, you know, to make it the smoke taste different or whatever, but this is nice. But anyway, you're going to chop it up into these size bits here because the fire, we want it to kind of smolder and not catch flame, so you don't want too much little stuff. Alright, so what I did was I just laid a little bit of charcoal down and some small pieces of wood and put it off in the far right hand corner of the grill. And I also laid some tinfoil down. Now the reason I did this was a lot of the times the jerky, because I cut it in strips, sometimes they fall down in there, and if you want to save the meat from the dirtiness of the bottom of your pit, lay some tinfoil down, and when the meat drops you can just open this up and get in there and grab it. We're just gonna lay a little lighter fluid in there, a little more for good sake, and light this thing, and we're gonna let this burn for about maybe 15 minutes. Our goal here is to just get coals. Like I said, we don't want any flame, we just want a nice hot bed of coals that we can start feeding this wood on at a later date or later time. Alright, so our fire has died down. We got a nice small bed of coals there, not too much smoke blowing in our face while we lay this meat down. But another couple things I forgot to mention about this grill that I like was obviously we have this extra level here that we can put all our meat on because we start running out of space down here. And also this grill came equipped with a thermometer, which is going to be important for us today. Generally we don't want the barbecue pit to go above 200 degrees, so I like to keep it between 150 and 200. Anything over 200, the temperature is going to start cooking the meat faster, and we really want the smoke to be doing most of the work here. So I've laid all our meat over here on this side. You'll notice that the meat has expanded a little bit during the marination process. And we're just gonna start laying this meat down. Another thing, I need to lower this down to the bottom so the heat is furthest away from the meat. But another thing I like to do is, some of the meat that I've cut is a little bit thicker than the rest. I like to put that meat closest to the fire just because the thinner meat can't take it as well as the thicker meat can. So just start laying this stuff down here, and as I go I make a decision on where I want the meat. And the thinnest meat I like to put way up here on the top. Alright, so now that we have all the meat on there, we can start putting the wood chips on. I'm just going to lay a couple there. Now if you don't think your coal base is big enough, you can always add a little bit more coals. In fact, I do that periodically just to keep the level of coals in there the same. And we're going to shut this and check it every 15 minutes or so to make sure it doesn't get out of hand. Because if it gets out of hand, bad things happen. Alright, let's check this bad boy. There we go. So we got a good amount of smoke in there. Everything's burning nice and slow. This is about 20 minutes since we first started it. Now another thing I forgot to mention was if you have any dampers on your barbecue pit, make sure they're closed tight. You don't want any air to be able to come in here and get this thing out of hand. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and close it again. Come back another 15 minutes, check on it. Alright, so let's have another look here. And we can see that our fire is burned down significantly. So I don't like to let the wood burn all the way down before I add more wood, just to ensure that I get a continuous amount of smoke. Working on this thing all the time. Putting more charcoal in there on the sides. And if you want, you can go ahead and just blow on it a little bit to stoke some of the fire or the coals. Be careful not to blow too hard like I just did, you don't want to get ash all over your meat. Alright, one more piece of wood working in there. Alright, we'll come check on you in another 10-20 minutes. So it's been about 3.5 hours since we first put the meat on. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like, shall we? Alright, so as you can see, the meat is definitely turning red. If you grab a piece and just turn it over, you'll see that it's kind of brown on the bottom side. I think it's just because the grill, the metal of the grill, is actually stopping the smoke from getting in those places. So I just like to turn these around so I can get both sides smoked. But as you can tell, I mean, they're still pretty raw. So he's probably got another couple hours or so to get to where they're edible. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn all these around, and then we'll check back on it later. So we're about 4.5 hours into the smoking process. It's smoking pretty good right now, but I'll show you another little trick here I like to do to just really get this thing smoking. So we have our wood there. The top side is the unburned side. Just go ahead and grab that guy and give him a nice flip. So now we're going to start to cook the other side, but what's nice is this top side here is really going to start smoking, and that really helps produce a bunch of smoke in here and just kind of hurry this whole process going. But you can tell the meat is still starting to get a little more firm. These, like I said, these pieces on the edge here closest to the fire are going to be ready first. So that and the top pieces up here, because these are thinner pieces. But let's give this about another hour and a half or so and see where we're at then. So it's been about 5.5 hours now that the meat has smoked. Let's go ahead and look at it. So
definitely getting redder and browner. But if you look here, you turn it over, and there's still some areas here that will need to be smoked a little longer. So we'll just go ahead and flip these back over. If you want to quicken this process, just get this thing a little hotter. You know, if it goes over 200, you know, say 210, 220, that's fine. It'll help darken the meat and get it dried out a little quicker. But if you want to smoke it a little longer and don't, not worried about time, then you can just continue at the current temperature of 180, 200. Anyway, I put a little bit more extra coals on there just to get it a little bit hotter, and I'm gonna let this go for hopefully another hour or so. But I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm hungry. Alright, we'll check in later. Alright, it's been about 6.5 hours since we put the meat in the smoker. Let's see what we got. Alright, this looks great. Got a little bit of flame there, but that's okay because we're done. So, if you take a close look at the meat here, this is really nice here. So you want to get it to where, as far as how it feels, about the same consistency as this part of your hand here. You just feel like that, and it's nice, and it's got a hard layer on the outside, and it's ready to try. So let's give it a taste. So the very last thing I like to do is I like to put this jerky in a brown bag, and there's several reasons for this. The first reason is jerky is still very smoky. You don't want to smell up the house right away. But the main reason is, if you look at some of this jerky, see how it's got a little sheen to it? That's the oil coming out of the meat still, and it's really slimy, and the bag tends to absorb the oil and also dry out the meat. So typically I like to let it sit for about 24 hours and let it dry out. Put it in a nice dry room. Don't put it outside because animals will get it. And put maybe like a old towel or something underneath this, because you don't want to get oil on whatever surface you're laying on. And see, my tinfoil worked. And then just put it in a Ziploc bag the next day and put it in the refrigerator, and you'll have jerky for a long time. So thanks for watching the video, and if you have any questions or anything, I don't know how you can get a hold of me.